Meeting to order. This is the January 17th meeting of the Concord City Planning Board. Madam Clerk, could you call the roll?
Yes. Chiara Dolcino.
Here.
Frank Kennison.
Here.
David Fox.
Here.
Jeff Santa Cruz.
Here.
Amanda Savage.
Here.
Teresa Rosenberger.
Here.
Matthew Hicks.
Here.
Rich Woodfin.
Here. All right, we have quorum. Just for the record, just want to recognize we've got Frank Kennison and Chiara Dolcino here as alternates. Both Suzanne Smith-Meyer and Carol Foss will not be joining us going forward. I do want to thank them both for 20 plus years of service to the Concord Planning Board, and there'll be a special day in the future that will anoint them going forward. But they've done a great job for the city for 20 so years, and they will be missed. A couple new folks coming in. We'll also have a new council representative coming in starting next month once council approves everyone that's on the new docket. So welcome Frank and Chiara back for the meeting, and we will move forward. I do want to make a quick announcement if anybody needs any assistance with hearing. The great folks at Concord TV have got some assisted hearing devices that sync to our lovely voices here, so if you're having any trouble in the audience hearing things, let Mike know in the back, and he'd be happy to get you a set of plugs, and you can hear us crystal clear. Okay, so we will move on. We got first item on the agenda. Actually, I just want to do a quick agenda overview. Announce item 9A on our agenda and 9B have both been moved to the February 21st meeting. If anyone's here in the audience for either one of those items tonight, those will not be heard. Everything else on the agenda will be heard. First item on the agenda is approval of the minutes from December 20th meeting. Would someone like to make a motion to approve those minutes as submitted?
So moved.
Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
And just for the record,
Abstain.
a couple of folks abstaining because they weren't here. All those opposed, an abstention for Jeff. And Chiara and Frank. So those minutes,
to say aye.
you're in the record as an aye.
Thank you.
Okay, so that moves us on to design review applications by consent. Anyone in the audience that's here for items 6A through 6I, the package of information comes to the board. It's reviewed and it's dealt with in its totality with architectural design review recommendations. If you've got a concern, if you could make yourself known on 6A or 6I. If not, any member of the board have any of those items that they want to pull?
6A.
6A. So we'll pull 6A from the agenda. So would someone like to make a motion to approve items 6B through 6I as submitted with architectural design review recommendations?
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Motion's made by Amanda Savage, seconded by Matt Hicks. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. Let's read item 6A into the record if we could.
Victoria Poland, on behalf of Stephen Dupree, requests ADR approval for a new 90-square-foot non-illuminated freestanding sign at the intersection of North State Street and Horseshoe Pond Lane in the Institutional District.
Okay, and Jeff, I think you had some questions on the height. Is that right?
Yeah, apologies. I love the sign. I have no issue with it. I just want to start off by saying that my only concern is the plan does not indicate the height to the bottom of the sign, which is an MUTCD requirement of 7-foot minimum, and offset from the curb line to the edge of the sign, not the post, has to be a minimum 2 feet per MUTCD. So with those two recommendations, I would make a motion.
Okay, so
Out.
Recommendations?
Their requirements of MUTCD is minimum standards.
so that the sign bottom to the bottom height of the height to the bottom of the sign is not more than 7 feet, not greater than 7 feet?
Not less than 7.
Not less than 7 feet. Not less than
Correct.
7 feet.
And the curb, it cannot be closer than 2 feet to the curb, to the edge of the sign.
So with those recommendations, you okay with that?
Sure, I was curious if you just want to post it as a condition that the sign is compliant with MUTC standards, recommending the 7. It just,
That's fine. Yep. And I might even be able to give you, I think it's section 2E of MUTCD. I had it written down, I apologize.
Okay, we can get that over to Alec if you can. So you make a motion to approve that with those recommendations.
With
Any
those
further
two, yep.
discussion regarding that? You remember the audience have any questions or concerns about this sign? No? Close the public hearing, and you've made a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. So that brings us on to, rapidly, to item 7A in our agenda. If we could read 7A into the record?
In accordance with RSA 67454, the State of New Hampshire Department of Administrative Services requests review of a proposal to construct a 409-space parking garage at 38 School Street in the Civic Performance District. The review and public hearing for this application will take place on February 21st, 2024.
Okay, is the applicant here? No. Okay. Well, that's distressing. Yeah, I don't know. We'd want to,
Is it because?
These are essentially DO.
674, so it's just a feedback and reviews. So we'll open the public hearing, open it up to the board. If the board's reviewed your packets of information, I don't know if anybody has any questions or comments or concerns. I know, Amanda, you had some questions regarding the height of the walls on the parking garage, but
I did, but it was indicated in details on one of the spec sheets.
it was, okay.
So it's 4 feet.
4 feet
Parapet height.
parapet height.
It was for the upper deck.
Okay. Any other comments, questions?
I'd like to say that for engineering, thank you. It was a very detailed review, and I appreciate that. I will be very interested in seeing the results of the traffic study review by our peer reviewer, because I did take a look at it, and I have concerns myself, both as an engineer and as a citizen, as to some of the assumptions.
We've just received that traffic, comments on the traffic study.
Okay, which will be perfect, because they'll be ready for next month then. Great. I can get a copy.
Are these pages out of order in this? This says
Yes.
72 pages. Okay. I just wanted to make sure I wasn't missing anything. Okay. Any other questions, comments? You remember the audience? Oh,
One more question in regards to, back to the upper deck, and has the city police department made any comments in regards to safety or life safety from that upper deck with only having a 4-foot pier pot?
good question. Yep.
I guess you could say kind of
Parapet.
wall. Parapet.
Parapet.
Yes, thank you. That there would be any safety issues with that.
Okay. Again, I know that,
Line of
I know
sight.
the School Street ones, and I know several of the parking garages in the area have that same height. So I don't know if it's a standard or if it's normal, or
I was,
I guess there's no sight line into the police department. Well, it probably would be, so into City Hall. But yeah,
I think she's thinking more from a
that's
pedestrian.
from a jump. Yeah, yeah. No,
Follow.
I'm looking at sight lines and
I'm agree.
things like that as well.
just safety
Yep.
as we come into this new world of.
New world.
Thank you.
Okay. Any member of the audience have any questions or concerns about this application? Nope. Close the public hearing, and I don't know that we need to do anything.
No.
Determination of completeness?
No.
Do we have
there's
to
no-
officially do that?
Nope.
Non-binding.
No, it's a non-binding 674 application, so it's just a courtesy, which, again, I would have liked to talk to him, but it is what it is. All right, let's move on. 7B, if we could read 7B into the record.
Christ the King Parish requests major site plan approval for construction of a new 5,300 square foot building and related site improvements for the purpose of a food pantry at 60 South Main Street in the Urban Transitional District.
Okay. I think we've done the determination of completeness on this, is that right?
No.
I can summarize. This application came before us more than a few months ago, and it was postponed to no date certain prior to the determination of completeness.
Okay,
And they've
so it is,
resubmitted and come back.
so we need to find the application complete, not a development of regional impact. It's telling me here to set the public hearing for February 21st, is that right?
Correct.
Okay, and same with, I guess, 7A, is that correct as well?
Yes.
Okay, so let's, we've read 7B into the record. I want to take a step back, sorry, folks. So 7A, again, the Department of Safety, the State of New Hampshire Administrative Services Department for the new parking garage does have a determination of completeness, no development of regional impact, and set the public hearing for February 21st. Would someone like to make a motion to find the application complete, not a development of regional impact, and set the public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. 7B, again, motion to determine the application complete and not a development of regional impact, set the public hearing for February 21st. And again, this is for Christ the King Parish requesting a major site plan approval for the construction of a new 5,300 square foot building and related improvements for the purpose of a food pantry at 60 South Main Street. Would someone like to make a motion to find the application complete, not a development of regional impact, and set the public hearing for February 21st?
So moved.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. So nothing else on that? Okay. Sorry, I was confused because it's all the packets in there in our information. So that brings us to the end of the consent agenda and off to our public hearing section of the meeting. Read item 8A into the record if we could.
Okay. Warren Street Architects, on behalf of Delta Dental, requests architectural design review approval for an amendment to the originally approved major site plan, specifically with regard to building and landscape lighting at 1 Delta Drive in the institutional district.
All right. Could we get a quick staff update on this, if anything's changed?
Nothing's changed. I think the applicant may have some additional materials to show you. Let them take over their narrative, and we're just hoping to make a motion.
Make a motion this time to do it? You guys got us at the wrong moment last time. We got so wrapped up in talking about building 1 and building 2 and lights and the amount of light coming from that we didn't make a motion, so you get a second bite at the apple. So welcome back. We're going to treat this. We're going to treat this just like you're starting from scratch. So there's no, we're going to have the same questions and you can answer them the same way, and we'll go from there. If you guys could state names from the record, that would be great.
I'm Tom Raffio, CEO of Northeast Delta Dental.
I'm Joe Casper, Director of Corporate Services at Northeast Delta Dental.
Jeff Paquin, owner of the New England Holiday Light Company.
Great. Tell us a little bit about this project. And again, we've heard it, but we'd like to hear it again.
Sure. So I'll be very brief, and Joe and Jeff will do most of the talking. So what we're really talking about is wanting to take the tree lights, which right now are white, obviously during the holiday, and then during certain holiday periods like St. Patrick's Day, maybe have like a week, where they're green. Maybe in July 4th having red, white, and blue. So we know that the white lights have been approved for the trees, but what we'd like to do is just have the ability to be flexible during certain holiday periods. And just so you know, I mean, I get the great pleasure of getting the letters and feedback from both tourists and residents, but I can read you 100 of these, but basically, that the lights are a beautiful beacon to look forward to. I love the lighted trees, etc. So what we want to be able to do is be able to have different colors during the year, but on a limited basis. Obviously, they would be shut down at at 11, so we're not dealing with bird migration issues, and it would be limited. And then the only other thing is having the white lights on the building. We understand and agree that we won't do any cornice lighting. So with that's kind of my introduction. We love being part of the Concord community, and so that's my sort of overview. And Joe and Jeff, I don't know if you want to add. I know you've got slides too. So
Yeah, this is basically, we had gone into the ADR committee with 3 items. One was the cornice lighting initially. The other one was providing some accent lighting on the brick on the buildings. And the third was to provide some uplighting in the trees that a lot of you see with the holiday lights on them. The ADR committee denied the cornice lighting, we're okay with that. And they recommended that they approved the fact that we could have accent lighting on the building and uplighting on the trees. The only change that we're proposing is that for the uplighting on the trees that we can use some color versus just white.
kind of like my tie.
not all at once.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So cornice lighting is on the presentation slides or no?
Should not be.
What you have submitted on the agenda was what we had as most recent, which was what went to ADR and went before you 2
Okay.
months ago.
So it does show cornice lighting?
Yep. And at that time, the application was for white uplighting on the building, colored lighting, uplighting on the trees, and the cornice colored lighting. And ADR recommended white uplighting on the building and white uplighting on the trees, and recommended denying the cornice lighting. And I think the applicant now is coming requesting for approval for white uplighting on the building and colored uplighting on the trees, as shown on the plan. And it might be simpler to look at the buildings one at a time. So they have 1 Delta Drive and 2 Delta Drive.
Okay, so no, so no cornice lighting?
Correct.
White uplighting only
Buildings.
On the building.
on the building?
Yep.
And then colored uplighting and colored lights in the trees?
So I think for the majority of the year, when it's, I mean, we could go through holidays and the extensiveness of holidays, but I don't think the idea is to have colored light on the trees 100% of the time.
No.
The light that we're looking to have on the trees might just be a celebration around, let's say, St. Patty's Day, where the lights could be green, and maybe we put a time commitment, if that would be helpful, with the colored lights, that perhaps a week prior to the holiday of St. Patty's Day, that the lights are allowed to be green, and then 4th of July, red, white, and blue, etc., so that really it maybe is only 12 holidays throughout the year that we're actually having colored light, and 80% of the year is actual white light on those trees. If you remember how beautiful that those trees look in the fall, with the vibrant red color of the leaves, white light would be the perfect thing to actually illuminate those trees and have them be looking beautiful. But for a majority of the year, the trees around the property, both properties, would actually be white light. And then again, white light only on the building. So time restrictions may be a helpful thing, if that would be a consideration. And I also have additional information from the last meeting. One of the women that was here was asking about migratory birds and amphibious things. We have statements and information from manufacturers, and as well as some recommendations for migratory bird patterns that might be helpful for not just the planning board, but the ADR committee on an ongoing basis to give other lighting applicants some recommendations. I know it's been challenging in the past with some of the approvals for lighting in the city, but we have some of that information
That would be helpful
for
if you can share that with Alec or with someone at the city. That would be great. And I don't know that we want to get as granular as you can do it a week before and a week after and this time and that time, but we'll open it up and go from there. All set? So we'll open it up to the board for questions, comments, concerns. Kira?
So ADR only approved white uplighting on the trees, not the colored lighting?
That's right.
What they're recommending.
And was there a reason why they didn't want the colored lighting on the uplighting on the trees?
I think that's decided, or that was a determination, and I think one comment was the seasons, tell the change of the year accordingly. I think they had just had some concern with the color. I'd have to review the minutes from that meeting.
Let me ask a question. Would it be the color of the uplighting be the same as the color in the tree?
No, not necessarily. I think the trees, around St. Patty's Day, the trees probably still don't have buds out on the trees even, so there wouldn't be any leaves on the trees, and we'd be shining green light, let's say, on the trees for St. Patty's Day. Valentine's Day, you might have white and pink or something like that. 4th of July, the trees are going to be red, white, and blue. But certainly around the fall, when the trees are super vibrant red leaves, that we would just shine white light onto the trees at that time, and then.
And what color on up in the canopy? What I'm saying is you've got lights up in the canopy.
Those lights, I think, probably are prettier to look around the holidays to stay that white seasonal classic New England look that is currently out there.
So in the fall, you're not talking about having lights up in the canopy and uplighting.
I'd imagine only one would be on at a time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, Kira. I'm sorry to interrupt. I just had a little same type of question because the minutes didn't really reflect what the objection was. Other than it was confusing, there was too much light going on.
No, I think the seasonal light that's up currently that look super pretty for passerbys and tourists and whatnot, that would be the prominent thing around the holidays after the leaves fall. We don't want to damage the trees either, so we kind of wait till the leaves fall.
So 4th of July, leaves are out, you're gonna have uplighting on and the canopy lighting
Nope.
on? Okay, all right, okay.
Only uplighting.
Straightens that out for me.
Yeah, those season lights come down, March.
You take them down every year?
Take them down and put them up every year.
Holy cow. Other question, Kara?
Yeah, the only other, I remember there was a lot of discussion about colored lights on the Smile building and turning those LED ones from, I can't remember the reasoning why, the concern about changing color.
Changing colors was one of the questions I was gonna ask, so it's gonna be on and it's on for the day.
Permanent and semi-permanent, and not alternating colors when it's on. So during, I would imagine, let's say St. Patty's Day, they'll just stay green. They won't blink, they won't change color, they won't fade, they won't do any of that. Yeah, it'll just stay solid.
Mr. Chair, just a clarification though, you're saying 4th of July, so one tree might be red, one might be white, one might be blue. So in that case, you do have different colors, just not on the one individual tree?
I would almost say like, when I think alternating, so physically, like
One
one
light bulb.
tree, yes, a color, then another tree, the next color, and another
Right.
tree, a different color, but not swapping colors or
No, not changing, but I
No
just wanted,
effect.
because that's the
Yeah.
there's 3 different colors. I
And
just
there
want
was
to
a
get
lot of
clarification.
discussion about the blinking or the changing of colors as well.
Right, so,
That's distracting, and that is not
Especially
something
near
that
the
we're looking
highway.
to do, is to provide a distraction.
Okay, other questions? Jeff?
so I understand you're not talking the coordinates lights, even though I know it still shows it. Are you still trying to ask for the building lighting?
Yes.
Okay. I still will point out again, section 2904, building lighting and facade. Light designed to illuminate the side of a building is discouraged. Floodlights and eave lights designed to wash a building with lighting are not permitted. So we need to think of that as we decide whether or not some sort of uplighting, floodlighting is allowed at all.
So I actually did a tour of Main Street and Horseshoe Pond, and if we wanted to look through images, that there are over 20 instances that I counted in under 2 hours. And this time I actually have data with location and address of that there are over 20 buildings that have landscape lighting, illuminating trees, illuminating building, architectural lighting, which are most all not improperly installed. But one of the things is a degree beam spread. So when you have floodlight, like if you recall in the Berkshire Hathaway building, there are massive floodlights that are indiscriminately lighting the building, highly likely not dark sky compliant. So when you have a 180-degree beam spread floodlight, that's high voltage, washing the side of a building, that there are over 20 instances of those that I counted from South Main Street to the lights at the north end, cutting out to Horseshoe Pond. And so we could look at some of those photos if we'd like, but Delta Dental is actually the only building in Horseshoe Pond that does not have architectural lighting, landscape lighting, or illumination. And the buildings directly adjacent to Delta Dental have massive, high-powered floodlights that are just indiscriminately lighting. So I would ask to consider as perhaps maybe one of the first applicants that you've actually seen, to my knowledge of the research that I've done, that is looking to actually have dark sky compliant, amphibious and migratory bird compliant lighting that's dimmable, controllable, low voltage, that meets dark sky initiatives for a building that is the only building that does not have current architectural or landscape lighting.
Okay. Other questions? Lisa?
Would you take me, or I'm on your Delta One, and I'm looking at what I have in my packet are the photos. So if you go to 1, 2, 3, 4, I think it's number 5, it just says Delta Dental lit up, and then there's a tree on the right. Is that pink or is that white?
I'd have to look at the photo that you're looking at. I just downloaded this link. Maybe we can see. Alec, is there a easier way to see the?
I'm just trying to figure out if that's what you're considering colored lighting. Well, right there. Right there.
So that is from the view of the train tracks, I believe. that one tree is one of the trees that is lit that we're looking to light. A better view is probably.
What color is that?
I mean, the photo doesn't show the highest quality, but it is a white light, but it's showing as like a pinkish purplish hue.
Okay.
But in the color spectrum, it would actually probably be closer to 300 Kelvin, which is a soft white light that is more of a yellowish white hue. Then at all, it is close to a high beam on a car that's probably closer to like a 5,000 Kelvin. But a traditional New England pure white, soft white light is what we're looking for.
So what you're proposing is doing lighting like this?
To have an option to do colored lighting on those trees, yes.
And ADR is suggesting it just be white. Now, the other question I have, and so with your building lighting, tell me which of these photos is what you're suggesting.
So there's actually a mock-up of the building lighting photos, which this one shows better. So you can actually see this white, soft white light that illuminates the building.
Yeah.
I do have the thumb drive if the new photos didn't make it.
I got, but not in time to put.
That's fine.
So we do have other photos, but this is a kind of a traditional classic white light. And this is kind of my comment earlier that Delta 1 and 2 is the only building that has no architectural, the only thing that illuminates the property is landscape lights. So we're also coming at it from a safety, security, a crime deterrence perspective that appropriately lit buildings also have that effect.
I can't see the top of that building from here.
This has the
Okay,
old,
that's what I was going to ask you. So
yeah.
are you,
not part of the application. This
Okay.
is what we are avoiding is the
okay,
cornice,
so you're
the
not
cornice
doing
lighting
any lighting?
on the top.
Okay,
Correct.
just want to make sure, we made a mistake once before, years ago, which I'm just making sure I understand. So you're suggesting the tree that we just talked about and the lighting that's on the columns?
Yeah, the uplighting.
Is that light? Yeah, that's
Yep.
fine.
Yep.
Nothing around
So
the
there
top.
is an
Nothing
overview.
around
This
the
is
top.
probably a better shot that
Yep.
shows 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 trees. These are the big trees right now if you drive by that have the pretty Christmas lights on it. Those are the trees that we're looking to illuminate with RGB lights. But again, remember, potentially 80% of the year they could be all white. The uplighting on this building, the lighting that we were looking at here, the uplighting photo here is what we're looking to do on this side, the front, which is the parking lot side that faces the highway, and the back side, but not really the parking lot, the back parking lot, which is actually north.
Other questions? Amanda?
Is that because that's what's visible from the
It's
interstate,
also-
or is it, because you mentioned safety, but then you're not gonna light one
Yeah,
side
the
that's
back,
got
this
back
area
parking?
here is an employee break kind of evening, like hangout kind of spot out here. It's also the darkest because there's no street lights over here. So this area is like this, I think it's the scariest looking. This back area is pretty well lit. They also have the field there. I think you guys do soccer and field sports, so there's huge field lights. So it's a combination of not really needed and aesthetically also not really an area that we need to light.
Gotcha.
Jeff?
So just to follow up, is there any way to do the lighting you're talking about by using a sconce with a downcast light to light the face of the building that would meet the regulation?
No. We can't cast light up into those trees.
No, not the tree, I'm sorry, the building. Trees, to be honest with you, I'm leaning toward being okay with the trees. It's the building, just, I understand what you're saying, that, hey, you can find 20 instances in the city, but we do have a set of site plan regulations, and at some point, unfortunately, we have to hold to those, or else every other person after you is going to continue to use the same reason to not follow the site plan regulations. But the site plan regulation does allow sconces to light those architectural features along the front of the building. So what I'm wondering is, instead of up, can we come down with a sconce and meet the condition that's allowed within the regulations and still get what you're looking for.
I would actually recommend, and happy to actually be a resource from a guidance standpoint, because sconce lighting, and if we actually looked at the other images, again, these 20 other buildings are not, are very prominent. The McDonald's, the sconce lighting actually causes more dark sky initiative problems because you can't actually control where the light is pointing. If it's illuminated from the ground, and I have a wall up front of me, and the lights are 2 feet away from the wall, I can actually control the beam spread so that it only points on the building, whereas a sconce light indiscriminately points upward in the sky. So if the goal is actually to meet the dark sky initiative, that's probably something to be considered.
No, he's looking at going down.
Right, I'm saying that this, because the regulation says
Yeah.
sconces may be used to highlight architectural features, but at least 75% of the lighting shall be directed downward. So I'm not saying an upward sconce, I'm saying a downward sconce to come across the face of the building.
Yeah, that would not be something that we would do. No.
David?
Question, if you go back to the picture that has the purple tree in it, it says, as I see it on, the lights that are on the left-hand side of that picture, those are down-facing, or are they?
This is a down-facing light.
Okay.
And that's what's currently there?
No.
And that's currently there or not?
That's currently there.
Okay.
So wait a minute,
More safety lights, are they, that's the back of the building?
Those seem to be over doors.
Yeah, this is the railroad side of the building. This back here is the railroad side of the building, and on this image, it would be here.
I thought you said there was no light in there, you said it was dark when you pointed to this picture.
When I look at this picture compared to if we look at the other photo, I really would love to load the other thumb drive to look at some of the other photos, but this area is only lit in these 3 spots. And what we would be doing is illuminating the building both aesthetically with a light like this, which would drastically increase the amount of light back here, but also not make it look like an industrial wash. You could downlight this whole building, and it would just be kind of blah. And by using an upward lighting, especially where this building has this roof piece, we'd be controlling the amount of light that we're casting in all directions, but also achieving an aesthetic look as well.
All right, let's move on. Let's see if anybody in the audience has any questions or comments about this application. No? All right, we're going to close the public hearing. Thank you very much for your testimony. Further discussion from the board? So again, on our packets of info, go ahead.
So I have questions to staff about so are these other buildings that were mentioned, are they non-compliant at this point?
I haven't looked into them.
Okay, so are there buildings out there that are installing lighting without coming before us when they should have come before us?
It's quite possible. People install signs without following
So-
the rules, but people do all sorts of stuff without following the
So for
rules.
argument's sake, if the applicant were just to do that and not do the correct thing, come before us, then we would not take any action against them if it's happening elsewhere,
In theory.
in theory, for argument.
Or we
argument's
would
sake.
take
Unless it
action. Now,
becomes a code enforcement case.
code enforcement
Yeah.
would be responsible. Okay, other questions or comments? Kira?
I guess I'm still confused as to whether the uplighting is compliant with the city's requirements.
Yeah, I don't,
It's not.
It's not. So one thing I may recommend is if we, to consider granting a waiver to section 29.04 to allow 100% of the uplighting on the building, whereas normally 25% would be permitted, if that's something the board wants to do, and that would close it up for this.
That would help.
okay, so let's address that first and foremost before we move on to the next step. So 2904, is that what you said?
Mm-hmm.
So 2904, if we crafted a waiver to allow them to uplight the building as submitted, the plans that are submitted architecturally, front sides of the buildings and the front-facing spaces in the building, what's the tolerance at the board level for that? We have good level? All right, so I'll make that motion that we grant a waiver to 2904 to allow for uplighting from the ground on the building as outlined in our in our packet of info.
A second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? 2 opposed, abstentions. So that motion carries. So that moves us to the next step, which is the staff recommending granting approval. And again, using the information as our findings of fact. I forgot to mention that, but the packets of info that we've got, the testimony from the applicant and the discussion that we've had here tonight is what we're using as our finding of fact. So staff recommends granting approval for the white uplighting. Just keep me honest here, Alex. So staff recommends granting approval for white up lighting of trees identified on the plan, white up lighting of the 2 buildings, and to deny the cornice lighting for both buildings as they do not provide the same enhancements of architectural features of the building, nor does the current use and location of the properties generate a nighttime attraction or activity. Good, solid, that doesn't change since ADR, right?
No, staff's recommending the ADR recommendation.
Okay, someone like to make a motion to grant that approval as outlined?
Mr. Chairman, just clarification.
Yes.
Did you say white uplighting on the tree or multicolor uplighting?
What did I say? I did say white, because that's what it says in here. So we want to say white or multi?
Yes.
We want to just say lighting. We don't want to say white.
RGB, I think, is what he used as a
I mean,
reference.
I guess we could just say uplighting. You know, we don't have to call out colors, right?
I think it would be good for clarification to say
White or colored. White or colored.
And Mr. I may recommend using the word static or something in that as well, just to
Non-changing.
Static white or colored light. Good with that?
I have a question.
Yes.
Is there any way we can approve multicolored static lighting, but have them revisit this after a year? And the reason I ask is I think we did that with Concord Hotel, or Hotel.
Yeah, and they came back and changed.
Yeah, and so.
Well, but they wanted more.
Right. I mean, I would tend to agree with ADR just because I think it's classier looking.
Yep.
But I understand people want to celebrate holidays.
Yep.
But so that's why I'm just asking if there's a way to do it so we have a trial period.
But again, I think we did it for the Hotel Concord or the building, Concord Capitol, Commons, whatever it was, building. We did it one color and gave them the option to come back to multicolor. I think that was they wanted to do more than we would grant them. We gave them approval for a year and then asked them to come back. We're giving these guys what they want. So the approval period, they're not going to come back and ask for anything different, I think, right? Am I missing something, Amanda?
I would like a determination of which holidays they're going to choose, because they can run with this, and absolutely, but let's just say when management changes and all of a sudden they're lighting up for Mardi Gras, I just want to be specific about, I just would like a specific, if it's these 10 holidays, I'm willing to approve it I would like there to be conditions of, please outline the 10 or 12 holidays that you're going to uplight in different colors, static, whatever it is that coincides. It's not that it's just a one day look up and there be 20 different holidays versus the 10 that we decided on. And I'm flexible, I'm just.
National Hot Dog Day is not on your list of recognized holidays, Kira?
Or what about just X number of different lights for 1 week each without discerning which holidays? That way they have flexibility. If one year they want to celebrate the Patriots winning the Super Bowl, they can do that, and or go St. Patrick's Day, whichever.
Well, I mean, I know that with your intentions, if I may, with your intentions, but as I said, as your management team changes, what could change with that? And I think that in 20 years, 10 years, whatever it may be.
Yeah, we're happy to. I think Jeff really said it best. I mean, this is a limited, St. Patrick's Day. We're trying to run a business. We're not trying to run a carnival and spend a lot of time, So basically, we're happy to, give you a memorandum with these are the and it won't be 10 or 12. It'll be more like 4 or 5 or 3 or 4.
Okay.
I think you heard from Jeff I mean, I've always been impressed with how concerned he is with the environment and the aesthetics and Mother Earth and everything. So I think it'll be done in the best way possible.
You happy with that? Amanda? A memorandum? Yeah, okay. Jeff?
I was just going to clarify, I was going to say, I would give yourselves the option, list the 12, and if you choose only to do 4, then it's your choice. But if for some reason, all of a sudden, some year Memorial Day really seemed to be important to someone, you have that option. I wouldn't limit yourself to this list. I'd go bigger, and then if you only want to do less than that, that's your choice.
Okay. That's more than reasonable, Jeff and Amanda. Thank you.
Okay. Any other discussion? Did we have a motion?
No, because I asked for a clarification, because you said white and not the
Okay, so
colored
white and or
static.
colored. So, again, would someone like to make a motion to approve that with the white or colored static lights, with a understanding that we'll get some clarification from the applicant on the number of holidays that they're gonna do it on, or have the potential to do it on?
So moved.
I guess there's a motion there somewhere. Motion's been made and seconded.
To
Further
approve.
discussion? To approve.
I have a question.
Yes.
Should we say not to exceed X number? I mean,
Yeah.
Not to
did you
exceed,
say
not to exceed 12?
12.
Did you guys say 12?
Yeah.
Yes,
I
not
mean,
to exceed
Not to
12
exceed
is high
12.
again, but
That's
I
fine.
think it's 1 week out of every month of the
Yeah,
year,
yeah.
which will not happen, so.
Okay, so we've got a motion and a second. We'll add that not to exceed 12 to that. You got that, Alec?
I think so.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you very much.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Very much appreciated.
Appreciate it.
Thank you for coming back.
And thanks for your work on behalf of the community.
We try.
Thank you.
All right, let's get on to the next section in our agenda, if we could. If we could read item 9A into the record. 9A is pulled, right? Sorry.
It is, we'll need a motion to continue it.
Okay, so we've got item 9A on our agenda. Is Aaron Lambert on behalf of B&L Transmissions LLC. Applicant has requested a postponement to continue to the February 21st meeting. Would someone like to make a motion to push that meeting, or push that application out to the February 21st meeting?
So moved.
Motion has been made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. 9B, Altus Engineering, on behalf of Ryan Tabor, requests a minor subdivision approval for a 9-unit residential condominium at 15 Hot Hole Pond Road. That application, the applicant has requested the hearing be postponed and continued to the February 21st meeting. Would someone like to make a motion to continue that application to the February 21st meeting?
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. 9C, Mark Beauregard requests a conditional use permit, CUP, to allow a driveway separation less than what is required at 5 Short Street in downtown residential district. If we could get a quick staff update on that, and we'll invite the applicant up to the table. Sorry, I should have let you read that. But I'm on a roll.
You did great.
All right.
bet you
What do we got?
Sure, there is the applicant's coming in here. They currently do not have a driveway on their property, which I believe is a 2-family home, and they've received zoning variances and relief to be able to construct the driveway. The issue is that due to the proximity of the adjacent driveway, they need a conditional use permit to allow this one driveway. This is not a additional driveway. This will be the single driveway for this lot.
Okay, so this application does have a determination of completeness component. Staff has found the application complete and set to open the public hearing. It is not a development of regional impact. Would someone like to make a motion to find the application complete, not the development of regional impact, and open the public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. Welcome to the table. If you could state your name for the record.
Hi, Mark Beauregard.
All right, Mark, tell us a little bit about this project, if you could. Does it have uplighting? Okay. I wanted to check.
Do you want uplighting?
You want uplighting, because okay. Shoot.
That looks difficult. Let's see, let me get this thing to rotate a little bit.
So where is 5 Short Street? I've lived here my whole life, and I do not know where Short Street is.
Yeah, the street's only 2 blocks long. It's a pretty narrow street.
Short.
I bought the building, let's say 7 months ago.
Oh, this is up behind, by the Friendly Kitchen.
Nope, this is, I don't know where we are oriented here, but it's a couple blocks over off of,
here?
yep,
Yeah.
Spring Street,
About 2 blocks from the
Rumford.
school.
Oh, okay.
Yep,
It goes up.
across from the little park,
Gotcha.
Thompson play area.
I gotcha.
So there is a existing curb cut there for parking. The previous owner used to have a nurse that would park in this area. It's got 2 apartments in it, and they're both being utilized now. And I'm looking to give the tenants a impermeable surface to park on. Currently, it's all grass, and vehicles on the grass is just creating indentations into the land. So I'd like to open up the existing curb cut by 8 feet, so I can allow a car to park side by side, and then one stacked for the downstairs apartment, which has 2 bedrooms. The upstairs has 1, so that I would reserve 1 spot for. Like Alec had said in the review, I did get a variance to pave within 1 foot of the property line, and that would be utilizing the existing curb cut that was there, and then also went back for a second variance for having over 70% impermeable surface area on the lot. I have received some notes from engineering, and I'm willing to adhere to each one of those notes. That's fine. No issues with any of those. So I'm seeking a conditional use permit to be able to utilize this area and pave it.
Okay, questions from the board? Jeff?
Just taking a look, are you gonna have enough room for snow storage so that you're not either A, pushing it out to the street, or B?
There is some room off the back. This doesn't show the lot line on the back of the property. The lot line is 6 feet off the end of the driveway. There's a 46-foot from the property marker, which is located here. 46 feet back is the end of the property line.
So, the answer to that is yes, you'll have snow storage space?
There is snow storage space.
Okay, other questions from the board? Any member of the audience have any questions or concerns about this application? Nope. Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. Any other comments from the board? Staff? Anything on the staff side?
No, only if you could, it looks like this might be a revised sketch. If you could just get that over to me so we can reference it.
Yep.
Okay, so in your packets, and again, the applicant has received zoning variances, and those are in place. We'll use the findings of fact that we've received tonight, the testimony that we've heard, to look at the 3.2 in your packet, which is to grant the following conditional use permit approval in accordance with 28.711F of the zoning ordinance to allow a 1-foot driveway separation from adjacent driveways where normally a 40-foot separation is required, to allow the establishment of a driveway access to a lot at 5 Short Street, subject to the following conditions, and those are outlined in condition A through D. Would someone like to make a motion to grant the conditional use permit as outlined?
So moved.
Motion's been made by Matt, seconded, I believe, by David. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. You're all set. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
That was easy. Don't tell anybody. All right, let's read item 9D into the record if we could.
Kelly Hilson, on behalf of Thomas Billimore and Mountain Creek Realty LLC, requests a conditional use permit to allow a driveway at 10-12 Higgins Place, which is map 641Z, lot 33, at less than the required distance from an intersection and less than the required distance from the adjacent existing driveway in the Opportunity Corridor Performance District.
All right, is the applicant here? Come on up. Can we get a quick staff update on this one?
Sure. The applicant went before the Zoning Board of Adjustment on November 8th, 2023, and received variances to allow a single-family detached dwelling on the site and to allow multiple principal uses on a single lot. The applicant proposes to construct 2 single-family dwellings on one lot. The adjacent lot is developed as a duplex, and the driveway is, the adjacent existing driveway almost abuts the property line of this site. This site is undeveloped with the exception of there's a storage shed or something on it that will be removed. Staff notes that the property frontage is only about 80 feet. So, and the required distance is 125 feet from the intersection and 100 feet from the adjacent existing driveway. With the street frontage, of course, of only 80 feet, that's physically impossible to occur. Staff had one concern, and that was making sure that there's enough turning radius. When you look at the site plan, turning into the parking spot looked pretty tight.
Sure does.
And staff queried perhaps that there would be more navigation room if they moved the driveway to the opposite side, which would therefore give them more, while not meeting the requirement because they aren't able to, it would give them a little more separation distance.
Okay. All right, again, we've got a determination of completeness component to this, so this is, staff has determined the application complete, not a development of regional impact, and have open the public hearing. Would someone like to make a motion to find the application complete, not a development of regional impact, and open the hearing?
So moved. Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. Welcome to the table. If you could state your name for the record.
Tom Villamure.
You can sit back a little bit from that. That's fine. It'll pick you up. Tell us a little bit about the project.
So basically, we got this property about, I want to say, a year and a half ago. It's just an open piece of land. The neighborhood itself is a little bit unique in the sense of 8 properties total in a opportunity corridor in which most every property doesn't follow along with that opportunity corridor, which to my understanding, being at the zoning board, they had said it was something directed more towards turning industrial space into more residential uses. Instead, this is, and also at that, if it is residential 3 units or more, most of these properties in this little neighborhood of 8 properties is, most of them are duplexes, or I believe there's a single family at the end of Herbert Street, because it's Herbert Street and Higgins Place. Those are the 2 streets that make up this neighborhood. We got a variance to be able to put 2 single-family houses on this lot. The goal of 2 single families instead of either a duplex or a 3-family is we want to give 2 people the opportunity to own a house. They're going to be small, 1,000 square foot ranches. That's our goal, to kind of help with that affordable living challenge in today's age. I understand that the driveway proposed we have on the right side of the lot, which would basically abut our neighbor's lot and their driveway. That is because we do have an existing 11-foot wide right-of-way, which is viewable by Concord GIS maps. It's doable if we need to make accommodations and move the proposed driveway to the left side of the lot. We can do it. We had just proposed this due to us already having an existing right-of-way. Yeah.
Okay. Questions, Jeff?
I did go and visit the site and trying to figure out, the other building isn't shown on this, which makes it very difficult because the garage to the map 56 lot 23, the one to the right, looks like it sits right on the property line, which makes me even more concerned with vehicles backing out and not having enough room, especially if those are garage areas and whatnot. I looked at this and thought, gee, if you could flip this the whole other way, so the garages and the entrances are toward the railroad tracks, it keeps the 2 driveways separate, so you don't have an issue of one abutter parking on the other and upsetting someone at a later date. And it just gives a little more privacy to both being separated might be a better option for this site, because it looks like, considering how your footprint of your building is, if you flipped it, it looks like it still fits in that same envelope, then I think that might allay my fears a little bit of not having enough room or having a structure right there you could back into, especially, again, during winter with snow and other things in the way.
Okay. Other questions, Amanda?
Has that been explored, or did you have anyone in your civil team say not to do that?
It's been explored. The thing is, obviously, the lot, it's not like it's a gigantic lot. Our layout at first was for these two single families to be in this sort of layout to make everything fit. It's tight. I do believe it would be doable. The only instance that we were thinking of this way in general was because we do have the existing 11-foot wide right-of-way. To my understanding, I'm not sure exactly what that right-of-way, us having it, means, but I know that we should be able to, 11 feet wide, we should be able to have plenty of room for backing up and in that sense.
Where is the 11-foot right-of-way?
I have
existing 11-foot that's going top to bottom?
It's going top to bottom along the eastern side of our lot.
Try backing out a 19-foot long pickup truck with an 11-foot wide.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. And you're going to be backing into the adjacent lot.
Right. And there's a building there.
And there's
If you look at the aerial, there literally is a garage that looks like it sits on the property line. And not having that on this plan makes it very difficult to kind of visualize that. And the other driveway, as mentioned, is right on the property line. And when I was there the other day, there was a vehicle that's packed half in the driveway, half on the grass. So it was already naturally parking. Now, granted, the lot's vacant, but I just think if there is an option to flip it and it works for the applicant, I think that might be a better use.
Okay. Amanda?
I mean, I think in the past, when we look at site plans, that we see the budding, facility, building, whatever is there. And so either for us to make a decision and to not see that on the civil plan, or even just the simple drawings that are there, that for us to have to, well, of course, go visit the site, but two, if we pull up the aerial, for those that have not visited the site, you can see, as I'm looking at it now, you can see that this is tight. So it's...
And the garage goes the whole distance.
Yes, the whole distance of the driveway that is, so it's almost like, what's the distance? Would it be 6 inches? So again, we don't know the budding property and the building itself to see the distance between the two buildings.
So is there the desire to flip these properties around, to re-swigger them, to figure out a way to get the turning radius out of the...
And unless they can show those other buildings on the lot and actually show a turn template on here and prove to us that, yes, a larger pickup could back out without running into the building.
Yep.
Or causing an issue, at a minimum. I mean, my question also is how come there are no waivers from some of the minor site plan provisions, like...
Well, I think they're only here for the first piece, which is just...
Yeah, I'm here for the first piece.
Oh, okay, it's just because that's my...
This is the first of probably a couple of visits.
That's fine.
Yes.
Then
So I'm inclined to send them back and say, we want another peek at this, but I want to be able to say, this is what you need to do. You need to show us a plan set that shows us an actual what's there. You don't have to draw everything in, but we need to be able to see it in the packet. So if it's aerials, that's fine. But you're concerned about turning radiuses, so maybe resetting the buildings, looking at jiggering them around so there's a little bit, whether you flip them around, however you work it. But what's the concern? The concern is backing out
It's
of the
the
garage.
tightness to the adjacent property and how they're physically going to back out without impacting the other property.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we can most likely make the flipping of the properties work and make that driveway on the western side instead of the eastern side.
Okay, so I'm going to move that we continue this hearing to next month. Give you the homework to go back with some new drawings, some updates on what's existing condition and what we're looking at for a packet. Is this your project? Do we have anything else for concern-wise? Yes. Again, this is only a conditional use permit, so...
So looking at this, it looks like Higgins Street sort of dead ends where the city might have future projects.
That railroad corridor, yeah.
So my question is, if Higgins Street is going to act, if there was something built in that area,
And Higgins Street
and
became
Higgins
opened at
Street
the end.
became a busier street, right now it looks like one house is there, right?
Yeah.
But if it became a busier street, would this have any impact on that? Right?
Good question.
Don't know.
Yeah.
That's why you're the experts at it.
Looking past me when you say experts.
I was right by you, yes.
Just not
One
even-
clarification on
I was
that.
looking in that direction.
Okay, other direction for the applicant, anything else that we want them to take a look at so we don't keep them along, string them along? Okay, yes,
I just want to clarify, so if I come back next month with just the driveways flipped, some better aerial photos, is that all that's wanted for this
you're gonna
CP?
look for turning radiuses.
Well, if
You
he
wanna see-
flips it,
Yeah,
yeah, I mean, I think turning radiuses, either side, I think turning radiuses are helpful to us to be able to make a determination that the driveways aren't gonna negatively impact,
yeah.
be dangerous. I think there's more room if you flip it, just looking at the space. The other thing is it also kind of somewhat solves the issue as it puts the driveway further from the intersection.
Right, yeah, moves it away from
So
the
it has
intersection.
that adjacent, and to Matt's point, if Higgins Street's gonna continue on, the railroad would have to be moved.
Right.
Because there's not gonna be another crossing at that location, most likely approved
Yeah.
in its current configuration, so, yeah.
Okay,
So for next time, you just want to see the driveways flipped and
clarification on the spacing, so we're seeing some measurements, we're seeing a good look at what we've got here as far as the spaces between the buildings, between the right-of-way, between the driveway turning radiuses and whatnot.
okay.
And you can work with staff, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Anne Marie can certainly help you
Yeah.
better define
I just didn't know if there's any way to speed up the process instead of waiting another
There's
month.
not, unfortunately.
Right.
That, you're stuck with that, unfortunately.
Yeah. Alright.
Okay, so I'm gonna make a motion that we table this, is that okay? It doesn't need to be remote. We're gonna make a motion that we table this to next month.
Additional.
Second.
You got a second from Frank, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries, you're all set, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, let's look at the next item on our agenda, which is 9E. If we could read 9E into the record.
Okay, Calderwood Engineering, on behalf of Granite State Baptist Church, requests major site plan approval for construction of a new two-story building to provide supplementary services to the church, including a gymnasium, classrooms, which would be elementary through junior high, nursery, kitchen, and associated parking, and 2 conditional use permits for shared parking and separation of driveways at 236 Sheep Davis Road in the Industrial District.
All right, let's get a staff update on this if we could.
Sure, there's a few things to go over here. Staff is recommending conditional approval. At this time, ADR recommended approval as submitted with a recommendation that the applicant provide a walkway between the 2 external parking lots so that the upper lot doesn't have to go through the building to access the bottom area. This was a determined regional impact, and in your packets you see we've got responses from the Central New Hampshire Regional Planning Commission as well as the town of Pembroke, with Pembroke's concern that the lighting be dark sky compliant. The civil plans, there was no lighting proposed or lighting plan, and we noticed on their architectural plans they show floodlights. Lighting is not required, but one of staff comments is that if it's to maintain, to provide a lighting plan that we can confirm will be compliant with our regulations. The applicant is requesting 2 conditional use permits. One of them is for shared parking. This building is largely, and I'll let them kind of explain their project, but largely used to accompany the existing church, and will run one or the other. Both buildings are not projected to be running concurrently at this time. It's going to be more of a Sunday school, after services types of building is our understanding. The second one is to a conditional use permit to allow 150-foot driveway separation where 250 is required. And then per section 21 of the site plan regulations, a sidewalk along Sheep Davis Road is required as it's in the 2017 pedestrian master plan. You as the board can require the applicant to pay a fee in lieu of that. and which staff would recommend is it would be a segmented sidewalk, and constructing it at this time doesn't do a lot for the pedestrians in the area. That's about all I have.
Okay, this application has already been determined complete, so we will open the public hearing. Welcome to the table. If you could state your names for the record.
Go ahead. Mohammed from Calderwood Engineering.
Peter Chamberlain, I'm the pastor of Granite State Baptist Church here in Concord.
You sound like a chaplain, Peter.
Yes, sir.
Welcome to the table. Congratulations on expanding the
Thank
building.
you.
I was here, I think most of us were here when
Yes.
you guys put the building in originally, and
This is the third time coming back before you.
it looks like things are going well.
They really are. And
Great.
so we are to the point of this is more of a necessity than just a desire.
Great.
Is
Well,
what it's
tell us a
turned
little bit about the project and give us some details.
So this will be a support structure for existing ministries. That is why the shared parking lots would be utilized there and to limit the footprint that is necessary for adding another 100 parking spots right now. The location of the building has been situated as such to be able to utilize the 3 current parking lots that we have for the entrance to the building. Then there'll be 10 additional ones put as an entrance coming off Sheep Davis Road. That'll be on that side of it. And so inside it will be, as I said, support ministry, that there will be a full gymnasium, and then we'll also put in kitchen, classrooms, youth room. That's why specifically it says for the classrooms, they're more elementary, junior high. We have a separate high school youth room that we'll be putting in, eventually move church offices to the second floor over there. And so, but we need the room. And so we are out of classroom space, we're out of activity space, we're out of fellowship space, and so we need to expand. And so this is where we're at and ready to move forward with it.
Great. Well, let's walk through the site plan if we can and the
Sure.
architecturals and see if we can come up with some questions for you.
Scroll down, it'll pull up on the screen too, probably if you need to. Yeah, just click on site plan there if you want to.
Oh, yep.
So as you're seeing them, if there's any questions on the site plan, the drainage, anything like that, then Mo can take care of that side of it. As far as questions on the design, architectural, anything, then I can answer any of those for you as far as layout, use, purpose, anything along those lines.
Okay. Questions?
So,
Jeff?
Actually, I do have one. You own the entire lot,
Sure.
correct? What is happening on the remainder of the lot? Because I know when I was out there visiting, the existing, there's like a trailer on the other end of the lot.
There's a
that is
mobile
being
office that was there,
used.
yes.
Is that going to be maintained and continue to be used
Yes,
as
that's
part of this
continuing
property?
right now. That's actually, we have a separate ministry, part of our church. It's actually based out of there. We have a man that actually works in the prison systems around New England as a chaplain. And so he actually uses that as his office and storage and everything that's there. We do have another mobile one that's over there that is able to move around, more of an office modular that's there. Eventually, because we may actually move into that gymnasium as an all-purpose building for a worship service. We're actually needing more space than what we have in our auditorium. And so we would actually do that probably for a few years to see what we would need to build for a new auditorium. And so currently, we would use it as what we're using it for now. We're using it for outdoor space, green space. We have a tent set up throughout the summertime. So whether it be church picnics, we do a big smoke-off on Memorial Day, July 4th, volleyball, basketball. That's all set up over there for the young people to be able to use.
Okay, so that lot, the gravel portion north of this proposed building is not used for any parking or anything else to supplement these
If
two
we
sites?
do have to use it for overflow, it is there, yes.
That's the old
No, I know it's the
landscaping.
Outdoor
landscape,
world.
yeah.
Outdoor world, yeah.
I just have a quick question.
David?
I also drove out there today. As a matter of fact, we drove through your property just to kind of get some sense of it. The driveway that is on the northern portion of the second, the old landscape,
Right beside the Shell station.
that's currently being used for that that trailer that's up there?
Yes.
Is that all it's being used for? Or is it going, it's hard to tell on this.
We are
plan.
not going to tie
Connect
into
them.
that for connecting for this project.
Okay,
It's not going to be tied into.
all right.
Matt?
My question is about the 3 classrooms and the windows. So I'm assuming these windows are a secondary means of egress from those classrooms. And so my question is, how far from the ground are they? So if you had an emergency and they had to be evacuated and you need to use the windows as that secondary means of egress, are you going to drop children out the windows?
You're looking at the back of the building where the entrance, this one here? Is that
Well,
what you're looking
so
at?
I was going to ask anyway about those being means of egress, and then I looked at the, elevation, and I saw they are off the ground quite a bit.
Yeah, those are good 10, 12, 15 feet off the ground.
Yeah. The architect came up with these renderings, but there's no emergency exit from that second floor classrooms for the windows.
And where does that go? So those 3 windows are on the back side of that, where there's a long drop down. Do they go across the front of the building as well?
They do. Now, when you say, and you're defining as classrooms, are you having in your mind?
Is that a classroom? We'll go back to that other one, down, right there. So that front corner that's there with those 3 windows, that there's a 15-foot drop out of that window. Those 5 or 6 windows.
Yes, that's actually the youth room on the second level.
So those 5 or 6 windows that are going across the front are all connected to that space as well, right?
That is actually a youth room, if you look at the layout of it, for teen activities, as far as whether it be, say, for example, a pool table or football tables, things like that.
It's that space right there?
So this would be the youth room right here, and these are the classrooms in the top left corner.
That's actually the downstairs.
Yeah.
That's right there.
Right
There
there.
we go.
Yeah, there you go.
Yes,
So it's all wide open.
yes.
Good point about the secondary point of egress, though. Other questions from the board?
On your site plan, your ADA space is supposed to be the closest to the accessible entrance, so you need to flip that around.
Move
Did
it up.
engineering already mention that?
Yep, yeah,
All right, I
someone
apologize, I
mentioned
didn't think
that
I
and
saw
where-
it in there. And have you talked to DOT at all, or looked at their standards for the driveway in the front?
Yep, so we contacted the DOT and they gave us a few comments, mainly being the turning radius.
And that came down too tight to the edge of road?
Yep.
Your profile?
The profile came too tight.
Well, a lot of times they don't like it to come right to edge of pavement, because then the water washes out onto their road. A lot of times they like you to come off the edge to a low point and then up. I don't know if they had any comments on your profile or not.
I didn't get any comments back for the profile, but
Okay.
he did mention that he wanted our water to be maintained on our site and not to drain
Out to the road, yeah.
out to the road. Exactly. We did mention the turning radius, and we revised we're in the process of revising the parking lot sort of layout to address that, as well as drainage. That was another thing. He thought we had a couple low points, which we are also addressing
I saw that in
and the
engineering.
revisions from the comments that you guys had.
Okay, other comments? Member of the audience have any questions or comments regarding this application? No?
Mr. Chair, I actually did have one more.
Okay.
Apologies.
Well, we can go ahead.
Real quick, you say you don't have any trash receptacles. What is happening? I mean, I'm seeing potential kitchen space, I'm hearing potential classrooms. Somebody tells me they'll throw trash, I have a hard time believing.
No trash?
Well,
Be.
that's a comment that was on,
We have a dumpster on site now.
yep, so.
Is it on that site or the other site?
It's actually it's in between, it would be right now in between the 2 buildings. So if you came out of the downstairs, it would actually be right in between the 2 to be able to use.
Okay. And with the new building and all the sidewalks there, can you still access it, or do you need to show us a turn template to make sure you know
Oh,
access?
it's still accessible coming right down to
So-
where it is now.
From the comments, we are adding dumpsters, and that would be in this section where, considering eliminating this curving right here so that it's easier for snow storage, and also extending this maybe 10, 20 feet up, adding 2 dumpsters there for that, because that was a comment that we saw and we overlooked first
Okay.
first time around.
I just, when I saw it, and I was just like, wow, they're really good. They're recycling everything.
Composting.
Yeah, so, okay, great, thank you.
And recognizing that Pembroke chimed in regarding lighting as well in their notice, okay.
That's something I think we'll address with the architect, because he's the one who had rendered those 3D models and.
There was a question on the application regarding sidewalks, and obviously we want sidewalks wherever we can put sidewalks in, so we'll discuss that, the board will discuss that, but movement from your existing building to the new building, is it all done in-house, or you're not gonna need to go out to the street to move from building to building, I trust, right? You'll be able to go from building to building with sidewalks and
Yes.
driveways inside the space.
I wouldn't mind commenting on the necessity of
Perfect, yep.
what it is, a sidewalk along Sheep
Yep,
Davis.
yep.
I would agree that it would be useless because of a segmented.
Yep.
And it is a segmented section of that. But I'd kind of like to have an idea before maybe a vote take place on what kind of fee would be talking about to pay a fee instead of something you wouldn't be requiring us to do anyway.
Right.
And it said in the comments that it would be based upon planning and construction and then come up with a fee amount. My thought in relationship to that is I would be very willing, because our engineer is actually, his wife was my wife's matron of honor, so they're very close to us. They would design it for nothing. I would have it excavated for nothing. And then I'm a concrete man and I'd pour it for nothing. So our only cost would actually be concrete. And so if there would be a way, I would even go as far as saying what would be the purpose of a fee if it's not something the city would be requiring, and they're recommending it not be built anyway.
Right, so it's an ongoing battle, and we get to a
Right.
we get to a tipping point on Sheep Davis Road as more and more development happens north of you and moving towards the south with additional properties being built out. We're going to get to a point where we need to have sidewalks along Sheep Davis Road. Which side of the road they're on, where they fall, what's going to happen to sidewalks and lights and things like that is not for us to discuss. But I'm sensitive to the fact that just putting in a sidewalk to
Right.
nowhere is not in your best interest. I don't know, it's an interesting dilemma on if we task them with putting in a condition of approval that if the city comes back in 10 years and says, based on the approval that we did in 2024, we want you to build the sidewalk now. I don't know that we've ever done that.
Yeah, so sidewalks in this area are required per our regulations. And the planning board has the authority to, instead of requiring you to construct that sidewalk, to pay the fee, so that when the sidewalk is not segmented at that point, the funds are available to construct that sidewalk. That's essentially what that is for. And as the chair alluded to, there's a lot of development going on Sheep Davis Road. We're extending a sidewalk not far from you on Pembroke Road, but it would your proposed project would still be segmented and isn't ready for sidewalk at that time. Now, it is very interesting how that fee would be assessed, is you would submit an estimate for our engineering staff to be reviewed, and then you would agree on the fee. Interesting
asking
conundrum where you think
clarification.
your cost of construction could be far less than the cost for us to construct. I haven't digested that fully.
The only
at the
reason I'm
moment.
bringing it up is because it's a very subjective matter to leave open-ended to come back and say, here's a fee.
Well, the fee would be assessed. Go ahead.
Right, the fee is based off of NHDOT unit prices. The standard cost that somebody doing work for the state would charge the state to do.
Yeah.
And those fees are available online at NHDOT's website.
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't have a problem coming back if there's something, but there is nothing within at least a mile either direction for any type of sidewalks.
Well, there
going
will
in
be a sidewalk that comes up to Pembroke Road, which is going to be pretty close to the end of Pembroke Road, so.
Mr. Chairman? if I
Yes.
could- Two things. It's in our master plan that eventually we will be putting them out there at some point. The problem becomes if you build it now and it's segmented, the city has to maintain it. So
Right.
which means now we've got to get a crew to come all the way out there to maintain it. So hence why a lot of times the planning board will look at an in lieu fee. You pay for what would be the construction, and you're done. We wouldn't come back to you a second time, 5 or 10 years from now, and say you owe more. It would be, here's what we agreed now as part of your approval.
Right.
You pay, and then the city sets that aside, and when they go through to build that, they use those funds to help build the entire segment. That's where that ends up coming in.
Sounds to me like it's gonna be more expensive for them to pay the in lieu of fee than to
Sure.
build the sidewalk.
Absolutely is.
Just so you
Yep.
know, it sounds to me like it's,
Well, the in lieu of
And that's
fee,
what I'm just trying to
we've
get a
seen some in
ballpark
lieu,
and see what
but
we're
we've
doing.
seen some in lieu fees not be that expensive.
Yeah, I mean, if it comes
the
back
grand scheme of
$10,000, $15,000 to put in a 100-foot sidewalk, depending on who the crew is that the state has, because it is a state road, so I understand it's,
It wouldn't be state building it.
yeah,
It's just it would use their requirements in terms of,
right,
you know, the unit prices. They have a unit price for doing like a 2-inch thick asphalt sidewalk. There's a unit price for that. It's $20 a square foot.
Right.
And then you'd have, you know, the gravels or whatever underneath, and then whatever grading you need to meet it. Because remember, just to say you're gonna build a sidewalk, we have to look at it, we have to look at the drainage, you may have to do drainage improvements, so don't just sit here and say, oh, it's just a sidewalk, I'm a concrete guy. First of all, we don't tend to do a lot of concrete sidewalks.
Well, and that's the other thing, whereas we are keeping our wastewater on site, if we do come back now, is all of this site plan going to have to be revised and then readjust in front of our property, because now we just dammed up whatever water, or we're adding more water and it's damming up between because we put a sidewalk in. And so then what I'm saying is, it opens up a can of worms is what I'm projecting down the road. So I was just asking for an estimate on what we're looking at.
Yeah, I don't think we can give you that, but I don't know.
And then the only other thing is it has to be paid
Peter.
before occupancy.
Right, if the city or the state decided to put a sidewalk in, we would have to redesign it at our cost.
Yeah.
And then we would use your money and whoever else contributed to the fund, we use those funds to do the construction. We wouldn't ask you to come back and redesign the site. You just can't do that.
And Chair,
Yes.
the money is paid in conjunction with the pre-construction.
Mhm.
So it's paid long before you get to the point of occupancy.
Okay, yeah, the note in there said just before any occupancy permits would be.
Right, paid up front.
Yeah.
Okay, other questions or comments, concerns? So close the public hearing.
The only other question I had, if I can ask, the note that was given from Regional Impact is recommending, of course, the wastewater, all the water's being treated, taken care of on site. But the other thing was asking for a full traffic study. I would ask that that would be removed because of the use and it being a supporting structure, and it is continuing on Sundays for the majority of it instead of going through a full traffic study on Sheep Davis for this project.
Is that in our
I don't
packet?
remember seeing that.
It was on these notes, number 2 from the
Is it the DRI?
DRI report that was sent back.
From the planning commission?
From the Regional Planning Commission?
Yes.
I don't remember seeing that. Oh, that's gonna be a problem. So how do we shake that through? If regional planning is recommending.
And it's only recommending it, it's not saying it has to be done, so that's why I wanted to bring it up, just to be able to ask.
It almost looks like it's I don't know.
Hang tight here, sorry.
Maybe regional because of I.
What's that?
It said, the statement is, we believe there may be regional impacts because of proximity to neighboring communities, transportation networks, surface waters, and emergency response agreement. Based on this, we recommend that Concord should solicit
Right.
a full traffic study is provided, full stormwater management plans, and that planning board solicit comments from Capital Region Mutual Aid.
It's not in the staff report.
No.
no.
So if this conditional use was, I mean, this conditional approval was given, is that fully put into law providing that.
That is a good question. And I don't know, Alec, I don't know, is this yours, Alec? Yes, it is.
Yep, I have a general comment, just, identifying that the comments from planning and the town of Pembroke, I would, my intention was that if any of those comments provided from Pembroke or regional planning wanted to be addressed, it would be added as a condition of approval tonight.
Yeah, but I don't want to,
If we had to do it, you're saying?
yeah.
Yep.
It would have to be put in.
Yep, if the
but-
board agreed with or had concern over any of the comments
So,
provided by Pembroke.
Are there concerns with traffic? Jeff?
I don't think so.
No.
I mean, I'm looking at this as a secondary use.
No, certainly no more than what went into the landscape place on a Sunday afternoon.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah, okay. I'm going to,
Honestly, the other really determinant is the state always has the right. So understand, you get our site plan
Right.
approval,
you
the
still need
state
have
could
it
then
come back.
ask for any of this stuff as well. And if the state, they
Sure.
themselves, that's the road they maintain as well. And if they're not coming back saying, gee, we're concerned with this use, we need a traffic study,
They haven't.
then,
Then, yeah,
yeah, I mean,
it's a little overreach on the Pembroke side. Okay, on the regional side, I mean.
I'll tell them next month.
I just wanted to make sure we were clear that if it needed to come back.
Okay, so with that, we'll close the public hearing. Right? You good? Okay. Any other comments from staff before we move into the next phase here? Okay, so again, using the materials that we've heard tonight, a packet of information that we've got as our findings of fact, we want to run through a couple of pieces here. So, response to DRI. So first and foremost is the fee in lieu in constructing a sidewalk along the frontage of Sheep Davis Road as part of the development. I'd like to take that as one item on your agenda here. So 5.3 is a motion to require the applicant to pay a fee in lieu of constructing a sidewalk along the frontage of Sheep Davis Road. I'd make a motion that we require the applicant to pay that fee. It'll become part of the record once it's determined what that fee is. Any second for that or discussion around that second on
second,
that?
and I would just say on discussion, I mean, we've included it of
Yeah.
the new low-income
Oh,
housing. up
absolutely.
by
We've done it
Sam's,
for, we've done it for
it-
everybody.
We even
Yeah.
did it for the solar
Yeah, we've done it for everybody. That's not new.
consistent.
Any discussion on that point? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. 5.4 is to grant architectural design review approval of the building and site plan as submitted. We did have a question regarding egress.
So my concern is knowing how I have to deal with this at work all the time, classrooms in the fire department.
Yep.
Is the fire department, if the fire department goes out and inspects and says you don't have safe secondary means of egress, you could be in trouble. Like you could have to do something to improve that after the fact. So I would want
Make
the fire
an amendment in there that fire department review the application for compliance with egress.
Yep.
Okay, yes, sir.
Yeah, I believe, because the architect has not submitted for the building permit or anything right now. It has not gone through with approval for
I
fire
would just,
department.
I'd just be
review,
aware
so
of that.
that will
And
be-
just,
yes,
you
thank
don't want kids getting
getting
injured.
Thank you for that.
Okay, so do we need to put anything in here with that, or?
I don't know.
I don't think so.
I believe at the time of the building permit, code and fire would
Code and fire will weigh in on
life
that.
safety concerns.
So 5.4 is to grant architectural design review approval as outlined. Would someone like to make a motion to grant approval? Grant architectural design approval. Motion made by Matt, seconded by Frank. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. 5.5 is to grant the conditional use permit CUP in accordance with section 28711C, shared parking arrangements of the zoning ordinance to allow the existing church's 87 parking spaces to be shared and included in a 92 space requirement for the proposed building. Would someone like to make a motion to grant that conditional use permit as outlined?
So moved.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. 5.6 is to grant the conditional use permit in accordance with section 28711F driveway separation alternatives of the zoning ordinance to allow 150 feet of driveway separation on an arterial street where 250 is required. Someone like to make a motion to grant that conditional use permit as outlined.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by David, seconded by Matt. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. 5.7 is to grant major site plan approval for the new two-story building and associated parking and site improvements at 236 Sheep Davis Road, subject to the following precedent and subsequent conditions outlined below, and those are in precedent conditions 1 through 7, subsequent conditions 1 and 2. Would someone like to make a motion to grant that major site plan approval as outlined?
I move.
Second. Motion's made by Matt, seconded by Frank. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. You are all set.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good night. We'll see you again.
Yes, sir.
Sure.
Did you both sign in?
Keep up the good work. All right, let's move on. 7F was canceled for the night, wasn't it, or no?
Yeah.
Okay.
9F.
9F. So 9F, let's read 9F into the record if we could.
Stephen Dupree requests a conditional use permit to allow a projecting sign above the first floor windows at 45 South Main Street in the Central Business Performance District.
All right, if we could get a quick staff update on this project. I think it's the first time we've seen it.
It may be. This is somewhat as a result of the conditional approval for the Concord Coach building, as the Concord Coach will obstruct some of the existing tenants' building frontage signage. So this is putting something up top. They went multiple times to ADR, most recently just a few weeks ago in January. ADR is recommending approval as submitted with the condition, with the stipulation that the background color of the sign match the red or the maroon of the awning on the storefront. Staff is recommending approval with a couple conditions. One of them essentially being that this condition, this approval is based upon the Concord Coach receiving its approval and a building permit, because that is the whole
So you can't sneak in and put a sign up and not have a big glass cage out there on the street, right? All right. Welcome to the table. If you could state your name for the record.
Victoria Poland.
All right, Victoria, tell us a little bit about this. I don't think we need a lot, but
Yeah, so this sign needs a conditional use permit because it will be in between the rows of windows and 25 feet above grade. And we need this sign because the city, the Concord Coach exhibit is going to be placed outside of the front of Gibson's bookstore, which I'm sure most of you are familiar with. And that exhibit is going to obstruct the view of Gibson's bookstore, the frontage of the store, and the signs that they currently have. So allowing for this sign to be higher up and vertically against the building will allow for visibility. So that way people who are driving by can still see Gibson's bookstore. And yeah.
okay. And there was discussion, I believe, last time regarding putting the sign on the inside of the corner there. Is that right? And there was some either objection to that or some reasons we didn't want to do that.
Yes, you guys suggested to place it how it is in the image.
Okay, on the outside.
Yes.
Okay. Knew there was discussion. I just didn't know what the topic was. Jeff?
Just quick, is this going to be internally illuminated? I was kind of confused. It's not like a typical sign application per se, so I didn't see those usually details we see.
Yeah. But it is internally illuminated, right? Yes. Okay. For the record. Okay. Other discussions? Comments? Questions? Remember, the audience have any questions or concerns about this application?
Mr. Chair?
Yes, sir.
I may have missed it. We may need to back up to determine it complete and not a DRI.
Ah, perfect. Well, let's do that first. You know what? It's on my report, motion to determine complete and not development of regional impact, and I apologize. I missed that. So it's on my little cheat sheet, and I didn't get it. So there is a determination of completeness on this. Would someone like to make a motion to find the application complete, not a development of regional impact, and open a public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. So the public hearing's open. So everything you just said is on the record for the public hearing as well. We'll ask the public again if there's any questions or comments or concerns. No, so we'll close the public public hearing. Any other discussion amongst the board? Comments from staff? Any concerns? I think it's pretty straightforward. So again, in your packet for recommendations using the findings of fact that we've got the applicant's information here and the little bit of testimony we got on this. We'll use those as our findings of fact. 2.2 is to grant ADR approval for the sign permit as submitted with the condition that the background color currently showed as red matches the dark maroon color of the storefront awnings. Would someone like the motion to grant ADR approval as outlined?
So moved.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. And 2.3 is to grant the following conditional use permit approval in accordance with section 2869B2 of the zoning ordinance to allow for the signage to be placed between rows of windows above the top row of windows or at a height over 25 feet above grade at 45 South Main Street, subject to the following conditions, and those are outlined again prior to installation of the final approval of the sign approved by this conditional use permit. The Concord coach display proposed for in front of 45 South Main Street shall receive final approval and the building permit for construction, and then if construction is authorized by the conditional use permit does not commence within a 2-year period from the date of the decision of the planning board, the CUP shall be determined, shall be deemed to have expired. Would someone like to make a motion to grant the following conditional use permit as outlined?
Mr. Chairman, point of
Yes.
discussion. This says that the Concord coach display gets approval for a building permit. Should we state that it has to actually be constructed?
A building permit would do that. So,
Well, you
No,
could be
bit-
issued, the conundrum I had is, the tenant may wish during construction, I don't know how long that construction phase will be, they may want the sign up at that point. of
And that's fine, but if just issuing a building permit does not guarantee us it's going to be built.
It does not.
So if we condition it this way, if they get the building permit, they go put the sign up, and for some reason funding
don't do
falls
it.
through,
Yeah.
Concord coach doesn't get built, they got their sign.
Right.
Nothing we can do.
Right, right.
So maybe say, based on this commencement of construction or authorization, I don't know, I just want to tie it to the construction a little
I
tighter.
gotcha. Yep. Building permit and commencement of construction?
Yeah,
Perhaps something at the end, keep the language that we have at the end, should the building permit for the Concord coach become expired, the sign should come down or something that would,
Or should the sign no longer obstruct, or should the Concord coach not obstruct the sign, something, because that's the whole point, right? If it doesn't obstruct.
No,
then-
it's the issue is if they get the sign permit, put the sign up, and then don't build the Concord coach
Right, so
in
if
the
the Concord
front,
coach doesn't obstruct the sign, the original sign, then,
then the other one comes down.
right.
Yeah, go that route.
I agree with Alex, is that if the expiration of the permit to build the Concord coach and the Concord coach has not even been started, then the sign comes down.
Yeah, you could add that in as a condition of approval.
I'm fine with that. I just want, not
Comfortable
that I
with that?
don't think it's gonna happen and everything, but, I just don't want to be, all of a sudden we have a sign up there that kind of didn't meet the conditions of approval somehow, because for whatever reason Concord coach falls through.
So how do we phrase that, Alec, in the bottom of this, so as
maybe-
condition C, if the construction does not commence by the time the building permit has expired, then the sign will need to be removed?
should an approved building permit for the Concord coach be, should the Concord coach not be constructed and the approved building permit expired, then the sign shall be removed.
Okay, good with that?
That's fine, as long as there's some way to kind of protect
Yep.
the city in there.
Yep, Kara?
And if the coach leaves for some reason, if it's there for 5,
No,
10
once it's
years?
there, it's
It's a
in a
permanent
big glass, concrete construction unit that's gonna be there, so once it's there, in theory.
And if it's not for the coach, they'll put some artwork or something else, I'm sure, 'cause they're
Something
not
else is
gonna
gonna be.
tear down the structure.
Yeah. But, yeah, good point, it's a good point. Okay, so we're gonna add that in as, condition C and hope that there's gonna be something there going forward. So would someone like to make a motion to grant that conditional use permit as so eloquently outlined there?
We'll make the motion since I was the one that,
Eloquently screwed it up on point C that we've added to it. Okay, so we've got a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Frank, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries, you are all set with that one, thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, let's go to item 10 in our agenda, 10A. If we could read that into the record.
Wilcox and Barton, Inc., on behalf of Stephen Dupree and the Arts Alley LLC, requests an amendment to a major site plan approval that approved a 4-story building to instead construct a 2-story building and a separate 1-story diner car structure at 20.5 South Main Street, which is map 7412Z, lot 37, in the Central Business Performance District.
Okay, we have a motion to determine the application complete and not a development of regional impact. Is that for the entire project? Yeah, I guess it is. So we need to make a motion to find the application complete, not a development of regional impact, and open the public hearing. Someone like to make that motion?
So moved.
Motion is made by Frank, seconded by Matt.
No, David.
David, and seconded by Matt. Sorry. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. We will open the public hearing. Welcome to the table. If you could state your names for the record.
Perfect. Good evening. My name is Erin Lambert with Wilcox and Barton. I'm the site civil engineer on the project.
Steve Dupree, the developer.
Adam Morrill, representing the architecture team at Procon.
All right, well, tell us about this very disjointed, uncohesive.
It's shrinking.
Uncohesive monstrosity.
Exactly what we're trying to do.
Not a monstrosity, that's a bad
Add on
word.
to our theme.
Uncohesive. Tell us about the project. Again, tell us about the
Perfect.
project.
Start with
Yeah, well, thank you for having us. This is the
Hold
third.
on, you usually sit over here.
I
used
know,
to
I'm
sitting
letting
over
Adam
there.
drive
The
tonight.
zip
Just
drive.
sitting over there.
Got
I know.
the zip drive.
We're architecture focused tonight rather than site civil.
There you
But
go. There you
let me
go.
give you a quick overview. So we are back. You have entertained 2 versions of this. The site looks relatively similar to what you've seen prior. However, the building has gone from 4 stories to 2 stories. I'm going to let Steve and Adam elaborate on that a little bit. But what I wanted to do was put everything into context, because under the consent agenda tonight, I know that you approved renovations of the carriage house that's in the back, and they really share common space. So I wanted to put it into context for everybody. So north on the top of the page is the Bank of New Hampshire stage, and so what we're here for, actually, could you go back one screen just for 1 second? So 22 South Main Street is shown in the red dashed line. So that's the project, the property area that we're here for tonight. However, uniquely, the carriage house and the alley are a separate property. So I just wanted to to orient everybody. If you go to the next slide. So we are just south of Bank of New Hampshire stage, just north of the Concord Co-op. It's a 2-story mixed-use building. You can see the entrances remain the same as you've previously seen. In the upper northeast corner is the entrance to the first floor restaurant. And then the entrance to the 2nd-story hospitality will be down the alley near a new archway. Under the previous designs, the restored diner, which you're going to see pictures of in a little bit, was inside the building, and we had a container kitchen, sort of a placeholder in the back. There was always a vision for this, and that is coming more into fruition. So the restored diner has a place on the southeast corner of the property. And then the courtyard continues to be a main attraction and a focal point. That's been designed by Terrain Planning in collaboration with Steve and Procon. And then that also connects directly to the carriage house at Duke's. So when we were at Architectural Design Review a couple weeks ago, there were 2 site-related items that came up for discussion that I wanted to just share with you the solutions that we've arrived at. The first was this archway that's going to be on the alley, and there was a concern about whether that would be open all the time, accessible for emergency vehicles. Because we were contemplating having a gate there. So the gate, the secure area, is now going to be solely around the courtyard, and it follows that blue line that Adam is pointing to. So that archway and the alleyway will always be open. It's a shared alley for access to the stage, for the Bank of New Hampshire stage. That's their loading dock, as well as access to the carriage house. And so the other gate will be down in the southeast corner. And the intention is that area, we want to be able to secure that off hours. So not only will the arch be tall enough and wide enough to accommodate emergency vehicles, it won't be obstructed in any way by a gate that needs to be open and closed. So That's the extent of the site. Everything else is relatively similar to what we had presented before, with the extension that we have formalized utility extensions to Duke's. They run through the 22, and all the reciprocal easements and whatnot are being put in place. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Steve and Adam.
Yeah, just before Adam jumps in, first, we've got all of Pete's comments from engineering. They're all fine. There are no issues there. How have we gone? We started with 2-story, then it was 5-story, then it was 4-story, we're back to 2-story with a deck. How? It's really a cost factor. When we did a 5-story, I think I reported to you we're going to do 2 or 3 floors of office space. Our net, triple net rents would have to be $30, which means your gross rent as a tenant would be $40 a foot. The highest gross rents are across the street, and they're in the low to mid-30s. We just don't see there's a market for that. So then we moved to a 4-story building, and part of the rationale for that is you can use some wood framing, which was cheaper than steel. And our goal was to put in 16 very small apartments. There's a big need for the law school, and frankly, we're going to make a friendly deal with the law school to make them exclusively available as furnished apartments because they're losing some students who can't find housing. Thank goodness we didn't lose my able intern who does a better job than I do on signs, Victoria. And again, we ran into the same issue. Short of receiving one of the governor's funding grants for housing, we just couldn't make the rents affordable, and we can't afford to wait around because Friendly Toast has been more than patient. This project was originally accrued for last year. So we went back to a 2-story building, and we'll walk you through some of the ADR, but the goal is to have 4 or 5 separate uses. So when we first went to ADR and the comments were, this doesn't tie together, we said, great, that's exactly what we're trying to do. And for that reason, we did make a few adjustments, but tried not to. And here's our rationale. Friendly Toast does not want to look like the rest of our building. They have a separate identity. They're a marketing draw. Those colors are their colors. The second floor is venue space. The Grapponi Conference Center now runs at about an 80 to 85% occupancy, and that's considered more than full occupancy when you have to turn tables. And we have more requests for meeting space than we can accommodate. So the second floor is going to be a function space. You could have a wedding or retirement party for 150 people, much like at the Grapponi Conference Center with a service kitchen, catering kitchen, more upscale than the Grapponi Conference Center, frankly. We think it'll sort of be one of the more upscale venues. So we wanted that to look very separate. It has separate entrance, not all connected to the Friendly Toast, completely different concept. Then we have a roof. Why not put the roof to work? So we've got a rooftop bar up there. We've actually, in Montreal, are right now rebuilding an Airstream, old Airstream trailer. It's going to be a bar. Obviously, it works in good weather, and it's not the height that we had with a 5-story building. That will be either a separate bar, restaurant on some locations, or it'll be booked as part of the venue space. And then Adam will walk you through, but behind we took the diner, that's the Dingman, Michael Dingman's diner. I think if you haven't ever seen it, go on Sotheby's and Google Michael Dingman's diner, the finest restored diner, I think, in the United States. It will never be a ham and eggs diner. You wouldn't put it subject to that much use. We were originally going to put that in the second floor, but it seemed like a mixture of concepts, and it took up too much space. So instead of putting a box kitchen back in the alley, we put the diner back there. That will be for a variety of uses. Ghost kitchen, pop-up kitchen. If we find a chef who wants to try coming to Concord, wants to try the concept for 3 months, why not use this kitchen? It's fully equipped, it's all code compliant, and it has 22 seats. It might be a perfect place for a small wedding reception, a small retirement party. It'll be special events. Good weather, it can use the courtyard out there. And then in the very back is the carriage house that we're going to do into sort of a national bar. So our whole intent is to not have this look like one comprehensive design. We don't want it to look like Port Walk in Portsmouth, for those of you who've seen that wonderful development. We want it to look like disparate, separate uses, because in fact that is what it's going to be. So I'll let, Adam was at design review, I was out of town, we got their comments. But when some of the folks said, this doesn't pull together, we said exactly what we're looking for. We did try and make a couple other accommodations, and Adam can explain some of the design features that we have done to try and make it fit, particularly with the Bank of New Hampshire stage. Adam, take it away.
Of course. Thank you very much. Sorry I'm a little muffled. My 2-year-old came home with a cold the other day, and it seems like so.
Leave it to a 2-year-old, huh?
So please let me know if I need to speak
Be with
up.
you.
Yeah. Thank you very much for having us. As Steve had mentioned, the idea of this building is to be a really active, inviting component of what is currently an underutilized area in the downtown. Currently, that alleyway really doesn't serve much purpose besides loading. Well, as wonderful as the existing building is, unfortunately, that's underutilized as well. And so Steve has this great vision for these multiple uses that would be complementary as well as, spanning throughout times in the day, creating activation along this space. Architecturally, the design of this building is really 3 components. We have the first floor retail space, a retail storefront like you see in much of the rest of the downtown, which has a different language than the balance of the upper building. This portion of the building is pulled forward, providing street front activation. A portion of the building where we have our entry to the exterior seating would be accessed internally, but that's set back slightly to offer a view of the Concord Co-op's signage. So we pulled that building facade back because they have signage that you can see along the sideway, so along the sidewalk. So it was important to us to step that building back slightly so that we're not obstructing their signage opportunity in their window. Some of the traditional architectural elements that we've carried in this building, you can see that the structural design is telescoped through the exterior. We have our upper level pilasters aligned with our lower level pilasters. Even though the architectural design of these levels is slightly different, there's those traditional elements that we're carrying through. One of the important features, and this was a point of discussion when we were in ADR for our previous design, was the scale of the building proposed here. One of the important features as we were redesigning this building was to relate to the adjacent architecture, the Co-op as well as the Bank of New Hampshire stage. So one of the important features that we are presenting is we have a cantilevered canopy that steps into the alleyway above the sidewalk area, and that mirrors the Bank of New Hampshire stage's marquee that's on the adjacent parcel, which creates a wonderful sort of inviting framework for this alleyway as we continue down this activated space. Here you can see a better view of that, view of the sign, as well as the activated alleyway. As Stephen mentioned, the 2nd floor and 3rd floor entrance is off of the alleyway, so it was important that this building had multiple frontages. So the architectural language of the 2nd floor continues down to the alleyway at this back corner, representing the entrance point and being a visual cue for people to come down the alleyway. The penthouse design is very similar to the 2nd floor design of the event space, with similar trim and accents carrying down to the grade, just like the balance of the building. In this area, there's a fiber cement panel with the intent of having a historic mural. Currently, we're showing an Abbott Downing painted mural on this part of the building. You might, understand the Donkey Kong mural that's not far from this project. We wanted something that was playful, but maybe a little bit, more upscale in approach there. But the intent being that this is an applied mural that could potentially change, every few years or something. And that's something that you see elsewhere in Concord. There's a lot of older brick buildings where you see painted advertisements that have faded through the years. And the idea was to be reminiscent of that, harking back to some of the history of this space, which is represented by the use of the diner. Here's an illustration of what the courtyard space looks like in the Dukes adjacent to it. That's further detailed in the landscape plan. This is an illustration of how we're activating the 2nd floor and 3rd floor levels of the building using a terraced building design. The idea being that we're providing a 3rd floor of use, but providing only a 2-story building presented to the street facade, so it fits with its local vernacular. And here's a view of the Airstream Steve was discussing earlier. Here's a concept rendering of the interior space. 2 of these storefronts are glass overhead acting doors, providing inside-outside access between the event space and the small terrace on the 2nd floor. And here's some diagrams including representing some of the architectural theories that we've presented in this building, which include information on the Bank of New Hampshire stage adjacent, how we're carrying our structural column lines as a traditional architectural element through the building. It was important that we provided a dynamic and contrasting storefront, which is a very special thing about Concord, is that first floor level is very activated and unique. And so we wanted to include that. Additionally, during the ADR, it was mentioned, quite rightfully so, that this building reminded them of a sort of mid-century architectural design, and that was our inspiration for the storefront, was something that was a little bit more classical. The second floor design carries down to the ground, which is the stitch that ties the building mass to the grade, differentiating the storefront from the balance of the building. With the second floor activated terrace space, this architectural element is the visual cue to draw people down, follow that cornice to the signage beyond in the alleyway. And here you can see the architectural scale is appropriate with the adjacent buildings. This image represents the negative space that's created at the penthouse, providing that second floor, frontage. However, we're taking advantage of that as a third floor terrace with multiple levels of activation. And we have a precedent image of a successful terrace, the Onvio in Portsmouth. So that's the walkthrough for the architectural design. As far as the materials that we're presenting, it's really a combination of brick and metal siding in varying colors, fiber cement accents in areas. So the material palette, while it may appear broad, is only a handful of different materials in itself. And if Steve wants to discuss the diner, here's a nice representation of the restored diner as
Yeah,
well.
this was a 1942 Silk City Diner. Michael Dingman bought it, restored it, had it on his recreation site in Kingston, New Hampshire. We were able to outbid a couple bidders. It's stored on the Chubb Lincoln Financial site, having been brought over by Getty's building movers. Complete kitchens, porcelain ceiling, 22 seats. Perfect place for your private cocktail party. Craft cocktails, tapas type events, or if we found somebody who said, hey, I want to try a restaurant in Concord for 3 months, take it here. It could be Joe's Restaurant, again, trying to attract a little bit more interest there.
Material palette, if that is a topic.
And then
landscape plan.
Landscape plan, I don't think there were any comments from design review. Again, the recommendation is, well, we defer this for another month, and frankly, we're not going to change it anymore. We're trying to make this look like different uses in the space. And one of the other things we're doing, right now there's a paved, we're going to change the pavement in there. We're going to put in radiant heating so you don't have to plow it in the winter. That's very important for the Bank of New Hampshire stage because we plow that from now and they have to back the snow out into Main Street with every storm, which is pretty expensive. Even with Tasker doing it, it's just a very hard job to do. And it will let us use that space more actively in the winter. And then we're going to take the pavement and come up with some, if you've been to the Montreal Museum of Art and seen they have an alley like that and they do optical illusion applications or paint, we want to make that colorful because the whole idea is to draw people in. We had some good feedback early on in this project about security. That's obviously an ongoing issue in Concord. This whole site will be secure. That's why the gate itself won't prohibit people from getting into the alley, but they will be prohibited from getting into our whole complex because the gate along the running east and west will keep people out, and then we're going to put some fencing and gate between us and the co-op. There was a suggestion, which we agree with, I can't remember if it was planning or engineering, that very narrow space between our building and the co-op, which we were going to plant, really isn't conducive to planting because it's so small, so we're just going to continue the impervious material there.
Yeah, there was a very small street. So we have a site plan resubmission ready to go. It addresses all of planning and engineering's comments, as well as any lighting and landscaping. So that package will be submitted with the revised elevations tomorrow or Friday.
And just from a broader scale, we're going to mark this whole thing as Arts Alley. We view this as a perfect place for, say, Eversource to have their summer employee party. You could use all 4 venues at once. So we could add some excitement. But we like the fact it's disparate design. We respectfully disagree with ADR.
So again, just for the record, what ADR is recommending to come back, and I think you're saying that you'd like to have us look at this and are explaining the reasons that there's not a cohesive connection between some pieces. And I'm sensitive to the fact that they're looking at it and saying, well, I love this building and it looked this way, but I like this. I mean, I like the look of it. I like the modern feel of it. I love the purple on the building in the back. So
There were a couple traditionalists who said, you're painting that brick, and I said, I am never building a red brick building again.
you just love the purple. So I'm sensitive to the fact that they're looking at it in a cohesive from floor to floor. But again, it moves away from Friendly Toast as their own space and their own windows and their own color palette on the first floor. Second floor and third floor do kind of tie in a little bit better. I did have a couple questions. So the second floor, are those garage door type openings on there? So when you open them up and you open the space up, the archway. So I had a question on the arch. Any city issues with the arch? That's private property, right? Behind there.
Property, I own both sides.
So there's no issues there. The dumpster, I saw voluminous notes in the ADR. I mean, just unbelievable amount of notes from ADR regarding different things. A lot of it was the continuity, but dumpster was discussed, and I think you talked about that for the co-op.
Yeah, we're part of the central business
co-op
dump
piece of it.
district.
Okay,
And
so
we've been allowing the co-op to use the 5 or 6 spaces on their western part. Those are ours.
Yep.
I know that when Families in Transition was there, they charge the co-op for those. We haven't. And they've talked about buying them. For right now, we're going to keep them because, and I've spent a lot of time with the trash compact and the trash advisory committee trying to come up with better solutions because, back when the idea of grouping the garbage, for those who've been in Concord a long time, you'll remember when the trash barrels were put out on Main Street every day. That didn't work. We came up with a compact. The problem with the compact now, in addition to the fact that it's more expensive than if we were doing it privately, is the just unbelievable wide use by people who aren't entitled to. For example, the other morning I saw a state representative with their legislative plates pull up to the dumpsters that are on the southwest corner of the School Street garage because people can do their dump there from their pickup truck, and then they just drive down the alley between what used to be
see it all the time across the street. I see it all the time.
It's virtually impossible right down. The one we moved down on Dixon Avenue when we created the park and moved the dumpster down, that was an invitation. It's unbelievable how many people we try and kick out. So we've been working on trying to come up with solutions there. Right now, this trash from this location would go to those 3 dumpsters that are on the south side of the co-op lot, which, by the way, sit on private property. If that owner of 36, I think it is, or 32 South Main ever said to the co-op, move your dumpsters, they would lose another 6 parking spaces. We have the same thing. There are 3 dumpsters in the Historical Society parking lot, which has a gate on it. Who's dumping in there?
Yeah.
And so that's a bigger problem, but we do have the room. If we find we're overwhelmed, we own those 5 parking spaces back.
Okay. And my last question was deliveries beyond Main Street, so deliveries to the Friendly Toast and to Duke's and to the...
Same way they're doing them right now to the Bagel Works and the Post. They're either using the bypass, the bypass lane in the middle, which was not the intent in the design, or they're going to pull into the alley.
Yeah.
And we gave easement rights. I originally bought this property because there would be no access for Bank of New Hampshire stage to get to the stage when we built it. And so then I gave them an easement, and we have to keep it open at all times. They can't park their vans or their buses for the acts there, which they have been doing, but they'll be able to load and unload. Deliveries will come down there.
Perfect. Okay. Questions from the board, Jeff?
I like it. I finally got to go to Bank of New Hampshire stage a couple months ago, and I really like the way that whole feel is. I like the different. I like the fact that it's going to be eclectic and kind of separate and the different uses. I had the question about the arch. So my question was not just fire trucks, but tractor trailers, if the height-wise and width-wise, The only thing that I had a concern was the painting all the way out into the cities right away. My thought is if we can stop it to the back of the sidewalk, then other than that, I really do like it. Again, I will go back to my same comment. If we could have done a little green rooftop garden, I would have been a little happier, but, you know.
Well, there's potential. Remember, I've got those 5 parking spaces, which the co-op likes. They have a big flat roof that isn't green. Right next door.
Right next door.
Yeah. I'm just,
Let's
but other than
make
that,
a
I
deal.
mean, I be honest with you, I'm in favor of this. I really do like it. I actually like this better than a 5-story just.
You know,
more
I agree with
office
that.
building.
I do as well. It
much.
looks a little more intimate, and it looks
It's
just.
gonna be a corner, you know, I can see this alley all of a sudden be, you
place
know,
to
sometimes they've done a little art where they close Capitol Street. I can see that moving down here instead and tying everything together. I do like the fact that you put the fence, because one of my thoughts was people just wandering out into the alley with drinks, who's gonna stop them? But having that gate there kind of answered that
Liquor
question. for me.
Commission requires that. You have to have a fenced-in area when you serve alcohol. I was just down looking at Tuscan Kitchen because when I was down there 2 months ago, the fenced-in area was 300 yards wide. Hardly a fence, but it passed. So we're gonna have that same kind of.
No,
area.
so I am very much in favor. I like the way this looks, way better than where we were before.
Thank you.
Amanda.
Question in regards to the fence, is there the courtyard that's going to be fenced in, so there won't be any kind of gap between Duke's and that, so, and the height of the fence will be, as people that are coming out from a Nashville bar, I'm just wondering, are they going to be able to hop over that fence?
Nope,
to-
we'll make it high enough so they'll get speared. Not that if you won't try, if they've had a good time.
Especially if it's in the back of an alleyway, right?
Have you been to Broadway in Nashville on a Saturday night?
Yeah.
Yes, I have.
They'll try.
You're gonna put a mechanical bull in here? Because, you know, we need one of those around here.
No, we're gonna have a little stage there. It's gonna be one of the more unique places.
Tootsie's
dining. It's gonna be somewhat like Tootsie's. We have 150 already framed movie and other outrageous posters that we're gonna plaster all over the walls, including maybe some up on the ceiling because we're running out of room. It's gonna have a rustic feel. It's gonna have stage, a built-in music system. One of the things you find in bars in New Hampshire, people come and have to bring their own gear, but if you go into Nashville, like Tootsie's or any of those places, the people just show up with their guitar. There's a drum set there, there's a sound set there, they plug in and play. That's our goal. Somebody just opened a Nashville bar down in Boston, and they bring their talent up for a 5-night run. So we've been talking to them about getting them on the off nights and trying some of that, so.
So have we got up lighting plans for the purple building?
Yeah, we want Lincoln. I want what Raffio
Cornice?
wants. I want what Raffio got +1 just so I can tease him tomorrow, because he'll call me, what did you do?
So on the lighting in the courtyard area particularly, I think we talked about it last time when we had a courtyard there, but what's the lighting?
We're gonna work that out as we go and work with city. I mean, we have a plan, but we want to make sure it's very well lit at all times, but not overpoweringly so, and has the right feel for it. We're gonna work on that.
I would say one thing we did do previously when the alley in the Carrot House Dukes was not part of the application, we didn't have a lighting plan. And so now we do have a comprehensive lighting plan. So there's just, you know, the appropriate lighting you would expect over the doorways. There's pedestrian scale.
String some back and forth to kind of create a canopy, maybe down.
We have that up on the rooftop bar. Yeah.
I'm thinking also the alleyway,
Yep.
you know, you see that in a lot of alleyways
Yep.
in some places I've been where they actually string it side to side with some little downcast
Yeah.
features.
One of the challenges there is we work so hard, as you'll remember, to get the neon sign for the Bank of New Hampshire stage. We don't want to take away from that.
Understood.
So anything we do in the alley for further lighting would be
Right,
back
can,
behind,
maybe from that
from the
arch
Yeah,
back.
from the arch, and which is to the west of the stair tower. That's sort of their end of their defining elements.
And that, yeah, I think
Yeah,
that could look really
Willerton.
nice.
Some guy put umbrellas in Capitol Plaza. You should talk to him about that. You see how-
Crazy ideas, I guess.
All right, other questions,
Coaches
comments?
on Main Street.
Questions from the board? Any member of the audience have any questions or comments regarding this application? No? Okay, close the public hearing. Thank you very much for your testimony. Okay, any other comments from staff or updates from staff on it? I think everything's here. Again, the lighting plan and things like the little details will need to be worked out, I think.
Just out of curiosity, Mr.
Yes.
Chairman, did we determine this complete at the beginning? We did, correct?
Yes, we did.
Okay.
Yes.
Just check.
We did it the right way. All right. Okay, in your packet, so again, using finding of facts, the material that we heard tonight, the comments and questions, I'm not inclined to send this back to ADR. I think the decision can be made here. So I'm going to go ahead and move through. Again, staff recommends the board discuss and determine the findings of fact. Oh, sorry, read that already. So what's the recommendation to continue to not continue this, but to act on it from an
Signs
approval
and lighting.
perspective?
It'd be a motion something like grant the amendment to the conditionally approved major site plan approval for the construction of a new two-story building. All precedent and subsequent conditions from the previous original approvals shall remain in full force.
Right off the top of your head, pretty good.
I'll make that motion.
You'll make that motion. We got a
Well,
discussion point?
I just have one question. Do they still need to come back for lighting and signage, or is that going to be completely separate of this? We don't need to worry.
We'll have lighting and signage should addressed by staff. So are we comfortable with that?
Yeah, no, that's fine. I just want to make sure, because they had mentioned they were planning to
Yeah, I
resubmit
mean,
tomorrow and all that, so.
Yeah, there's some signage on here which looked the same as we did that before and approved
Nope,
before.
I'm fine with that. I just want to clarify.
If we got a motion, do we have a second?
I will second.
We got a second from Jeff. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. You're set. And thank you very much. Okay, let's move on. What do we got? Anything left? 11. Any other business which may lawfully come before the board tonight? I think we are all done. With that, we will take a motion to, anything else from staff we need to address?
Nope.
With that, we will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So
Will someone make that motion? You guys, caught you.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone, for your assistance and a fairly robust meeting, 9/11.